the Foundation's post hoc declaration purporting to explain the terms of the 2022 amendment cannot supply missing essential terms. First, the Foundation may argue that Ranger was not required to comply with notice and bidding requirements because the Foundation is a nonprofit corporation, according to the Texas Local Government Code Section 253.011. But by its plain language, Section 253.011 is inapplicable to the 2022 amendment because it explicitly states, D. Consideration for the transfer authorized by this section shall be in the form of an agreement between the parties that requires the nonprofit organization to use the property in a manner that primarily promotes a public purpose of the municipality. If the nonprofit organization at any time fails to use the property in that manner, ownership of the property automatically reverts to the municipality. On its face, the 2022 amendment fails this mandatory requirement because it purports to grant the airport property to the Foundation to facilitate development of the property around the airport, with personally owned hangars. In other words, the Foundation wants to get in the property development business. The development of personally owned hangars is, by definition, not a public purpose, particularly when the city is exchanging the very public property on which those personally owned hangars will be developed for an unknown amount of consideration. It would be palpably and manifestly arbitrary and incorrect to find that transferring Ranger's historic municipal airport property, minus one small plot of land and one vintage hangar, to the Foundation so it can develop personally owned hangars constitutes any sort of legitimate public purpose. Although courts generally defer to the legislative body to determine what constitutes a proper public purpose, courts are not obliged to accept such findings when they are clearly wrong. Here, Ranger did not even make a finding of public purpose. But even if it can be said that the 2022 amendment makes an implied finding that transferring public property to the Foundation for the development of personally owned hangars is the public purpose, that would be clearly wrong. This is especially true because the consideration received by Ranger, the public, for such a transfer is unknown. Accordingly, because it is undisputed that no public notice or bidding occurred before the purported transfer of public property contemplated by the 2022 amendment, the contract was not signed in accord with Chapters 253 and 272 of the Texas Local Government Code. Value. That term is undeniably material because without it, there is no way to determine if the real property is being conveyed for adequate consideration, as required by the Texas Constitution and Chapters 253 and 272 of the Local Government Code. The Foundation may determine that a coat of paint constitutes sufficient historical restoration, or it may determine that no paint is more historically accurate and call it a day, because both outcomes are equally plausible under the terms of the 2022 amendment and not the Foundation's post hoc arguments about how much money it has allegedly raised. The amendment does not state essential terms of the service that is actually required to be provided to Ranger. It is impossible to determine from the four corners of the 2022 amendment, even when read in the context of the 2018 lease, how much, if any, money constitutes the Foundation's consideration for the transfer of over 81 acres of land on the interstate.